England are through to the knockout stages of the World Cup after a 3-0 win over Wales. They will face Senegal on Sunday in the round of 16.
Wales are out of their first World Cup since 1958. 1 point from their 3 games. They finished bottom of Group B.
Dejected Welsh faces there. It's been a tough night for Steve Morrison covering the game, particularly in that second half here in the studio. We'll get his thoughts on what went wrong for Wales, not just tonight, but in the World Cup as a whole. A World Cup they'd waited so long to be at. And we'll also get the thoughts of Darius Vassell on England's 3-0 victory tonight. What went right for Gareth Southgate and what he thinks lies await in the last 16 in that tie with Senegal on Sunday.
We'll also keep you in touch with the closing seconds, and it is just seconds now, between Iran and the USA. The USA leading by a goal to nil and also heading for the last 8. But right now we're talking to Kaveh Solokol, our chief reporter, who is outside the stadium where England have had, in the end, a more than satisfactory win. Kaveh.
Yes, everything went right for Gareth Southgate this evening. England had to be patient. They had a lot of the ball in the first half. Wales seemed to be happy to sit off them. The atmosphere in the ground at the start of the game was great. A lot of noise being made by both the England fans and the Wales fans. It was the best atmosphere I've encountered during this World Cup. But it went flat really, really quickly because England had a lot of possession but weren't doing much with it. That, of course, changed at the start of the second half. And the spark that really lit England into life was that surging run by Phil Foden to win the free kick, from which Marcus Rashford scored the opening goal. 98 seconds later, low cross from Kane. Phil Foden made it 2-0, and then Rashford scored the third as well. So a really good night for England, really good night for Gareth Southgate. All the changes he made worked. Kyle Walker came in, played very well. Jordan Henderson played very well on the right-hand side of the midfield. And up front, the 2 players he brought in, Phil Foden, I thought, was arguably the man of the match. Marcus Rashford, exceptional performance on the left as well. And even all the substitutes he brought on played really well as well. Players like Callum Wilson carried a real threat when he came on. I think the only issue Southgate now has is selection dilemmas for this game against Senegal on Sunday, because all the players that he brought in played so well. Now he's got to decide, will Foden start again, or will Saka come back in? Will Rashford start again, or will Sterling come back in? Nice selection problems to have, but I thought England were very, very patient. They did what they needed to do. Very, very efficient performance from Gareth Southgate's side.
We'll talk about with you in just a second, but there is breaking news from the other match at the end of this group.
There is, because it's all over in the Iran-USA game. It is a USA win by 1-0. It was close, and it's a win that sends the USA through with England to the last 16. Remember, Iran only needed a draw in that game this evening, with Wales being beaten, and they would have progressed. They started the night in second place behind England in the group. But that goal from Chelsea's Christian Pulisic before half-time, and in fairness, USA had chances before that and after it as well. They were the more dominant side. That is the goal that has sent Greg Berhalter's side through to the last 16. They will face the Netherlands on Saturday afternoon in the last 16. And for Iran, what has been a fairly topsy-turvy World Cup, with the hammering by England in their first game, that victory over Wales in the second game, and the emotional scenes we saw after that match, now finishes with a 1-0 defeat, which means their World Cup is over. England, they are confirmation, win the group. USA in second. They join England in the last 16. Iran finished third and will be going home with Wales.
And let's get more from Kaveh Solokol, our chief reporter, who's been waiting while we brought you that latest information. You were inside the stadium, Kaveh. What was the mood of the England fans up to the point where Rashford brought that spectacular breakthrough?
Well, look, the game started, fantastic atmosphere inside the stadium. There are a lot of England fans, a lot of Welsh fans, more England fans than I've seen at any other game during this tournament. Great atmosphere. Once the game started, though, the crowd became really, really quiet. I think it was because England had so much possession. They had something like 73% possession in that first half. Wales was sitting off them, and there was a lot of sideways passing, you know, Maguire to Stones, switching play from one flank to the other, and they weren't really creating that many chances. But the crowd stayed with the England side. As far as I was at the England end, so I can only really speak about the mood among the England fans. They stayed with the England players. The players were being patient. The fans were being patient as well. And then they got their reward at the start of the second half because England started so well. And I thought it was significant, my producer pointed out to me, that the England substitutes, they started warming up on the pitch during half-time, but straight away they were told to come into the dressing room to take part in the half-time team talk. So Gareth Southgate had the whole squad in the dressing room, and I think he knew that he was going to make a lot of changes in the second half, so he wanted all the players in there. And then England got the perfect start. As I said, Phil Foden was the person who was really making things happen, as well as Marcus Rashford, and it was really noticeable from where I was seeing the understanding that Phil Foden has with Kyle Walker down that right flank. So I think if Phil Foden is going to start against Senegal, you could make a pretty good case for saying Kyle Walker should start as well. But look, let's not get too carried away. England did what they needed to do. Gareth Southgate said his first objective was to finish top of this group, and that's exactly what they've done. Now, a lot of people will be saying, oh, it's better to play Senegal instead of Netherlands. I'm not so sure.
Well, you talked about getting ahead of ourselves, but let's get ahead of ourselves is what we do. We're English. If they come through that last 16 match, which, as you say, might not be at all straightforward, as it stands, it looks like it could be France or Argentina in the quarterfinals.
Exactly, and historically we sort of know what happens to England when they come up against the top sides in a tournament. Historically, they tend to struggle, whether it's Italy, although they played very well in the final of the Euros 18 months ago, or Croatia in the last World Cup. France or Argentina would be formidable opponents for this England side. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, because Senegal, you have to pay them a lot of respect. We're talking about the champions of Africa. They are the reigning champions of Africa. I know they're without Sadio Mane, their best player at the moment, but they've got a lot of other very, very good players like Kalidou Koulibaly, for instance, Bouladia, who plays up front, Idrissa Gueye, Ismaila Sarr, who plays for Watford as well. Nobody should underestimate Senegal, because out of the two teams who will be playing this game on Sunday at the Al Bayt Stadium, only one of them is champions of their continent, and that is Senegal.
Solical live from the ground where England beat Wales tonight by 3-0. Thank you very much for now. We want to know how you rated England's performance. You can score the players on our website and via the Sky Sports app. There is the QR codes on your screen. Just use your smartphone to scan that. It'll take you straight to the right place. Just a bit of fun. Good to get your views.
Let's get the Wales perspective. We can head back to Qatar now, because Geraint Hughes is there for us. He's been following Wales throughout this tournament. He's outside the stadium where Geraint, all the Wales fans are dejectedly heading out and preparing to head home now, no doubt. How dispiriting will the manner of that defeat be for those fans leaving the stadium behind you?
Oh, it'll hurt for a bit, but I'm hoping and suspect maybe not for too long, because there's a great sense of pride in what Wales have done with actually getting to this World Cup, and with the group of players, the generation of players that have got them to the Euros in 2016 and 2020, and now to this World Cup as well. There is going to inevitably be a passing of the baton, whether that is immediate or a phased out sort of some of the older players. You know exactly who I'm talking about, the likes of Gareth Bale, Aaron Ramsey, Joe Allen. They can't go on forever. And also, if the truth be told, probably this World Cup either came too soon because they weren't fit enough, or they came too late for them, because Gareth Bale, by his standards, was ineffectual, other than the penalty against the USA. Aaron Ramsey, I thought, had a decent-ish game tonight, much more impact on the game than he did in the previous two games as well. But in terms of the fans, yeah, listen, they're going to hurt, because they've gone out of this World Cup knowing that Wales could, probably should, have played better But there's a bigger picture here for Wales. It's a small nation on the global stage for the first time in 64 years, and people will remember that. And even when I was just leaving the stadium, just as additional time was up, a couple of Welsh people that were sitting around me, and then we all sort of shook each other's hands and had a smile and said, well, you know, there we are then. And we move on, we go upwards. So I don't think you're going to have people crying in their soup too much. Wales will see the brighter, positive side of this journey and be proud of their boys, whatever has happened here this evening. I think the shame of it was towards sort of, especially the second half, the number of players that Wales lost. Gareth Bale obviously didn't come on for the second half. Nico Williams went off. Ben Davies has went. That was always going to be a challenge for Wales in that second half. When you lose players of that talent and experience, plus the fact, I think, as Carvey alluded to, you felt England were just holding their patience and a chance would come and they would take it. And when Wales was shorn of an awful lot of their first rank talent, it was always going to be an upward hill.
Yeah, and obviously we'll find out about Bale coming off at half-time. When the game was 0-0, let's not forget as well, Geraint. Listen, we know over the last decade or so, Bale has so often been the go-to man for Wales. But seeing him come off at half-time in a game that Wales needed to get a result in, I was just going to ask you about what a big statement that was from Rob Page, that he was willing to make that change. But we're just hearing information, Geraint, you might know this as well, that actually it's looking like it was a hamstring problem for Bale.
Yeah, I was about to say, I noticed twice. I've got the luxury of being inside the stadium, not beholden to television pictures. I saw him twice stop and stretch out his leg, you know, when there was an opportunity for to stretch out his leg, when there was a throw-in or when there was a stop in play. He clearly had not a serious problem, but it was holding him back. So I wasn't hugely surprised because I caught that out of my eye on one occasion, watched him for about 5 or 10 minutes, and he was stopping and stretching his leg out. That's never a good thing to see on any player during the first half. It's something you sort of see, you know, when fatigue kicks in at around 70 minutes. There clearly was a little bit of an issue. And I think, if the truth be told, there was an issue with Gareth Bale coming into this World Cup. I asked him directly on 2 occasions, once in Cardiff the day before they flew to Qatar, and then once the day before the USA game, how fit are you really? And he gave a standard answer, which he deflected away my question, saying, yeah, I'm fit, I've done everything I need to be, I wouldn't be here otherwise. I think probably the truth be told is that maybe the niggle he picked up in the MLS towards the season, that it was probably still there in the background. He didn't have enough match fitness in those legs, and when you are fatigued, what happens is, if there is something little there, it comes to the fore a bit sooner. I'm not at all surprised that Gareth Bale came off at half-time due to an injury. I think Rob Page was probably left with no choice, because he didn't have a huge impact on the game, and if he's going to do himself serious damage, there's no point in being on the pitch. So yeah, sad to see, because as far as Wales are concerned, he is a great man. He's arguably the greatest Welsh player of all time. I think only probably John Charles could probably challenge him for that one, but he's been a superb servant for Wales, come what may. The inevitable sort of talk, well, will he call this a day? Speaking with some senior officials at the FAW, they've been talking to him about being involved in the Euro 2024 campaign and how he could help Wales with that one, and that he is going to keep on playing. But it's up to Gareth Bale, isn't it? So we'll probably hear in the coming future about what his plans are for his footballing career going forward.
And finally, Gareth, when you look to the future with this Wales crop, you look at players like Nico Williams, who of course had to come off in that first half after taking the ball in the head from Marcus Rashford. He stayed on for the best part of 10 minutes, having initially suffered that injury. What's your reading, particularly with concussion protocols being such a hot topic at the moment, what's your reading of the way that was handled?
You might know this better than I do, but in the stadium, when Nico Williams went off, it was called a concussion substitution, which means that Wales did not lose one of their allotted substitutes for that game. So they in effect were able to substitute Nico Williams and then still have their 5 substitutions for the game. I don't know whether that's a first of the World Cup. I think it is, but I stand to be corrected. How many times have we already seen at this World Cup players take significant knocks to their face, to their head, and they have stayed on only to come off later? I think the one positive is that he did come off as a concussion substitute, that was recognised, but the length of time he stayed on for is clearly going to be a concern. You're clearly going to have charities like Headway as well that are going to see this. They've been calling out during this World Cup. They'll be saying that once again. and that will be of concern as well. We've been debating this takeaway from the World Cup, haven't we, Julian? We've been debating it around Premier League, Championship and domestic club football, about what needs to be better done for players if there is the chance of concussion. You look to other sports, you look to rugby union where there's a head injury assessment. Players can go off. If they pass that, they can return to the field. There is this significant debate to be had, which people seem to be keeping on putting off and off and off. And maybe Nico Williams, maybe being that first concussion substitute this World Cup, maybe that debate will actually go a little bit further than it's gone so far at this World Cup.
Geraint, for now, live in Qatar. Thank you very much.
Lots of talking points raised by Carve and Geraint for Steve Morrison from a Wales point of view and Darius Vassell for England to pick up in a few minutes' time at a World Cup where England have scored more goals in the group stages, 9, than at any major tournament before. Stay with us.